So, hi everyone. Thanks so much for joining. I'm Alice McCallum from the University of Sussex International Office. I have quite a lot of bits to talk to you about today, and there'll be plenty of time for questions as we go. I know that Christoph will also be answering questions in the chat as well. So, hopefully, you've now got three of us, including my colleague Khalid. So, hopefully, all three of us will be able to answer any questions you might have. And hopefully, some of the questions will also be covered in the presentation as well. So I wanted to start by talking a little bit about the university, the campus experience and the facilities as well, because if you want to come to the university, it's really important that you know what you're signing up for and what kind of things you can expect. So in terms of the facilities that we have, we've got a 24-hour library. So if you're someone that really likes to do your academic work in the middle of the night, then we've got you. We've got a student centre. So the photo that you can see on the slide there is our wonderful student centre, which is a fantastic space where it's a social space, it's a collaborative space. We use it for events. Students can just go and do some work there if they want to. You can have meetings there if you want to. So there are quite a lot of facilities available within the student centre for our students. We've also got Careers and Entrepreneurship Centre, and we do have an award-winning careers team as well. So our careers team have worked very hard to provide students with experiences that will make them more employable once they graduate. And we have a really excellent entrepreneurship scheme as well. So a lot of students, particularly international students, get involved in that. You can bring your ideas to the entrepreneurship team. They can help you ask the right questions, figure out what answers you need, so that when you go back to your home countries or wherever you're hoping to launch your business, you've got everything in your toolkit to get started. If you're a fitness freak, then we've got gyms, we've got a supermarket and post office as well. We've got a health centre. I really like discovering the cafes and restaurants on campus. I've been at Sussex for almost 4 years, and last week I discovered a new cafe that I had never been to before. So it feels like there are quite a lot of different places to discover, different places to meet people, different places to try and, do some work, take your laptop and just have a nice coffee and just settle in as well. We've also got faith areas. So no matter what faith you are part of, there are areas where you can explore that. We've got the Students' Union, and I'll talk a bit more about them when I talk about Welcome Week. And finally, I wanted to mention as well our beautiful green spaces. You can actually see them behind me. Sussex, one of the fantastic things I think about Sussex is that it's a beautiful campus. We are surrounded by beautiful green space. We are in a national park. And so if you fancy on a lunchtime or in an evening, you can just go for a walk. I did that earlier in the week, and you can not walk very far before you get to some really, really stunning views and really beautiful areas. So it's the kind of campus where you get to have the city experience, the beach experience, which I'll talk about soon, and also countryside as well. So if you're into sports, if you're into activities, we've got over 40 different sports clubs, including things like American football, we've got soccer, athletics, surfing and windsurfing, we've got field hockey, but we have quite a lot of other sports as well. And the nice thing about our sports clubs and societies is that you can do it at different levels. So if you want to play something in a fairly relaxed way, if you want to do things in a quite a chill way, maybe you want to play soccer once a week against friends or in a small group, you can do that. If you want to take it really seriously, let's say you're really, really good at basketball and you want to take it seriously and compete, we also have opportunities for people to do that. So you can do things at competition level as well. We've got we've got on-campus facilities like gyms, we've got group fitness classes, we've got sports halls, tennis courts. So you don't have to go particularly far from campus to be able to access those facilities, and some of them are on the campus as well. So, it's important for you to be working hard and making sure you're thinking about the academic side of things. But so much of what you'll do and so much of the learning that you'll do is also the non-academic. It's the learning about yourself. It's the joining clubs. It's the taking part in things and meeting people from all over the world. And so if you're not interested in sport, we've still got you. We've got loads of different clubs and societies. I've given a few examples here, but there are lots of different things. So we have sports based around different faith groups. We have sports around different nationalities, different subject interests. Different activities. So whether you're interested in music, dance, drama, art, different kinds of films, there are lots of different sports clubs. And I think for a lot of our students, the sports clubs are a great way of meeting people whom you wouldn't necessarily meet otherwise. You might find people from different countries who are doing completely different courses. And that's a really great way of making a different group of friends and learning from their perspectives as well. We have extensive student support available for our students as well. So I already mentioned the Student Centre, but the Student Centre, as well as a space that you can use, it is also essentially a hub for the information that we have. So if you're not totally sure where to go, you can speak to the team at the Student Centre and they can point you in the right direction. We have mental wellbeing support for our students as well. It's really important that not only the students come to us, but also that you benefit from your time at Sussex. We want you to have the best possible experience. So if you are having a hard time, if there are things that are bothering you, we've got people that are there to speak to you and people who are there to support you. I've mentioned the careers and employability support as well, but what I will say is that a lot of times I meet students and they talk about how career is really important. And then I see them maybe in second year and I say, right, how's it all going? And they confess that they've actually not really done anything with the careers team yet. And I think that's a bit of a missed opportunity. So if you are the kind of student who's really planning on your career after your degree, definitely engage with the Career Centre early on. Go along to events, meet employers, work on your resume, make sure that you're developing yourself as much as possible, because when you start applying for jobs, maybe whether that's internships in the summer holidays, for example, or whether you're looking for jobs after you've graduated, you'll have a lot more opportunities there. You'll have a lot more skills and you'll have the knowledge that you need to put in a really competitive application. We do have academic English support as well. And we've also got a peer support buddy system. So if you want to, you can sign up to be allocated a buddy who is someone who can essentially show you the university experience, maybe talk you through some of the challenges that they had and how they solved them. We've got the housing team. So if you've got particular questions about housing, and I'll talk about that in a second, but they're able to give you support in terms of anything that you might need that is housing related. Now, the Students' Union is two things, which is a bit confusing, but in one way, the Students' Union is a space. It's a social space on campus. They've got a bar, they've got various other facilities. So it is a social space. It's a space where you can go and meet people, you can get involved in events, you can do activities, you can do some of your clubs and societies. But it is also a group of people. So the Students' Union are university representatives, students who are representing the student body. So they will go and speak to senior academic members of staff, for example, about particular issues. So they will be your representatives. And if you're someone who is maybe politically engaged, or perhaps you just want to be part of improving the student experience, you might be able to apply to be a member of the student union committee and get involved in things like that. So maybe representing students' concerns in particular areas, which again can be really good for your resume, and it can be a really good way of meeting people across the university. And the interesting looking building that you can see there is the meeting house. So that is our multi-faith prayer area. We do actually have, if you go into the meeting house, it's a really, really beautiful space. You can't see it here, but they've got multicolored stained glass windows. So on a sunny day, the inside of it is absolutely stunning. And in a more informal way, the bit on the bottom, we host meetings and events and parties and things there as well. So there are lots of different spaces on campus that you can spend time and that you can meet people. So in terms of housing, housing allocation will depend on whether you are doing a postgraduate, so it says here PG course, or whether you're an undergraduate. So if you're an undergraduate course, the tenancy is normally for 39 weeks. If you're doing a postgraduate course, it would normally be for 51 weeks. And for international students, accommodation is guaranteed if you apply by the 31st of July. So if you haven't met your conditions yet, please sign up for it anyway. If you're an undergraduate applicant, make us your firm choice on UCAS and you will be covered by the accommodation guarantee. And then once we've got that application, we'll be able to start allocating a room. So our rooms are single occupancy, so you don't share a bedroom, but you may share a bathroom, or you might have a private ensuite bathroom. Now, typically that will affect the price of it. So if you're on a bit of a tighter budget, you might want to look for the flats that have maybe a larger number of people using the bathroom, a larger number of people using the kitchen facilities. But otherwise, some students say that they prefer the ensuite because you've got that kind of private space for yourself. So it completely depends on what your needs are, and you can express a preference for a particular type of room. When you complete the accommodation form, what you do is you don't say, I want this room. You say, this is my first choice, this is my second choice, this is my third choice. And our team will try to allocate you one of your higher choices if they're able to do so. If you have specific needs in terms of, say, you're a mature student, you need same gender accommodation, you need a quiet flat, or perhaps you've got a medical need that means that you might need to be on the first floor, we do have those available as well. So make sure that you indicate that when you complete the form, and our team will do whatever they can to make sure that you get a room that meets your needs. At the moment, we've got 9 different residences. You can see some of them there, but actually I think that photo was taken a few years ago, and we do have even more accommodation now kind of towards the right hand side of the screen. We've got over 5,000 rooms on campus, so for most of our students it's a great opportunity to be on campus, not have to worry about commuting in, getting a bus, getting a train, that kind of thing. They are all self-catered as well, so you've got a shared kitchen and a shared social space. Some of them also have their own study area, and normally there'll be someone in charge of making sure that everything in those flats is okay. So if you've got particular concerns, there'll be a kind of connector, we call them, who will be able to check in, make sure things are all right, and help fix things for you. Our undergraduate students can live on campus for all 3 years of your course, and you'll be able to request to stay with your friends as well, which kind of is a nice addition to your university experience. So just in terms of questions that we get asked quite a lot, the earliest date you'd be able to move in typically is the 18th of September. That's not confirmed for this year, but normally students would be able to if they request it and if the room is available. If you want to arrive earlier, say you want to stay with family or settle in, just make sure that you find somewhere to stay during that time. If you're allocated a room that you don't like, that doesn't fit your needs, we operate a swap system. So normally it opens up about a week after move-in, and that means that students can go in and find someone to swap the rental agreement with you. So let's say you've been allocated a shared bathroom situation and you just don't like it, or maybe the flatmates, so they're just, they're not your kind of people. You would be able to go onto the app and find someone to take that in return for you taking their tenancy. Allocations would normally start this month, normally later in July. They'll continue into August. I think sometimes allocations can go as late as September as well. So if you haven't heard anything from us, don't worry too much. But if you're a bit worried about it, you can just contact the housing team. And we do have groups available to connect you with your future flatmates as well, so you can kind of get to know people before you even arrive. So moving on to some of the stuff that is a bit less interesting, but is very, very important, visas and fee payments. So as you might know, the CAS is what is required as one of the documents required for visa, which means confirmation of acceptance for studies. And essentially that is the university saying this student is coming to the University of Sussex. They have been given an offer for this particular course. And the CAS is what you use as part of your visa application to indicate that you have a legitimate reason for applying for a student visa. We are issuing CAS at the moment for unconditional offer holders. And so every day more students will be getting, or more incoming students will be getting their CAS. Most of our students will need to go through CAS Shield, which is run by Enrollee, before you do that. And some of you here hopefully have already started going through that process. If you think that you should have received a link and you haven't, then do just email the admissions team. You can see there the email addresses for the undergraduate and the postgraduate admissions teams. In terms of the visa application, once you've got your CAS, our top tip is do the visa application as soon as possible. To get CAS, you need to have paid your postgraduate deposit if you are a postgraduate student, or prove that you've got a sponsorship, and you need to also meet the conditions of your offer. And if you're not sure if the visa process is too much for you, which I completely understand because I'm also bad at paperwork, use one of our agent partners. We've got agent partners who would typically support you for free, and we've got agent partners across a large number of different countries. So if you're thinking, yeah, that sounds great, but I don't really know where to begin, let us know. We can introduce you to an agent partner. We'll try and match you up with one of our partners who is in your city if possible, and they should be able to provide you with that kind of support to get you through the visa process. So this is for postgraduate students only. If you're an undergraduate student, you can switch off temporarily. But for postgraduate students, as I mentioned, to get your CAS, you do need to pay a deposit. And you can only pay your deposit when your offer is unconditional. At the moment, the deposit required for CAS to be issued is £5,000. Now, there are two options. You can either pay through Convera, and you need to email the receipt to our finance team, or you can pay through TouchNet, which will be done through the postgraduate application portal. If you're an undergraduate student, you don't need to pay a deposit. If you're a sponsored student, if, for example, you're coming to us through Chevening, you don't need to pay a deposit, but you do need to email proof of sponsorship to our sponsor letters team. So if you are a sponsored student, do make sure that you send us the evidence for that. Otherwise, our team will assume that you need to pay a deposit and that you haven't yet. So yeah, make sure that you make a note of that email address if you need to. Now, in terms of tuition fees, we do get asked a lot, okay, what about tuition? How do I pay it? So the tuition fees would normally remaining, so that will be minus any deposit, minus any scholarships that you might have been given, will be shown on your account early September. So you'll be able to log into your Sussex Direct account and see how much you need to pay. Now, for postgraduates, as I mentioned, you've got the £5,000 deposit. And then when you enroll, you pay either the whole thing, whatever's remaining in September on enrollment, or you can pay 50% of the remainder in September and 50% at the end of January. If you're an undergraduate student, there are no deposit requirements, but we do have 3 opportunities for installments. So you would essentially split your fees across the 3 times. So October, you'd pay a third, January, you would pay a third, and then May, you would pay a third. We've got a bit of information about our visa processes on the website as well. So I just wanted to show you what you'd be looking for. So these are our links to our student hub. You can see what's going on there. And we do have quite a lot of guidance on there about the visa process. You can also contact our international advice team. You can see that on the right-hand side, and hopefully Christoph and Khaled can put a link in the chat if you need. But if you've got specific questions, particularly if you have questions about fee status, which we do get quite a lot, do contact our international advice team. What I will say, as you may already have discovered, is that simply having a British passport does not typically mean that you pay home fees. Normally, you would need to be a British national, and it would depend on where you have lived for the last 3 years, and there are various other fairly complicated parts of that we are not qualified to answer, but our international advice team very much are. So if you think that there's a chance that you might be able to be considered as a home student, then great, contact the team and they'll be able to give you a bit more guidance on that. Okay, so let's say you've got your visa sorted, everything's in line, you're ready to go. Now you're starting to think about packing. Where do you begin? So we do have a packing list, which hopefully will be useful. You can see the link at the bottom there, but I've also included a few pro tips as well. So if you've got medication, if there are home comforts, things that you know, a teddy bear that you've had since childhood, for example, something like that you want to bring, definitely bring those things along. If you've got bedding, sometimes it can be quite nice. I have a pillow that I have, or a pillowcase, and that makes me feel safe when if I'm feeling a bit nervous. So that's the kind of thing that some students might bring. And if you're having a difficult day or if you're feeling homesick, you've got that kind of thing to remind you of home. Similarly, photos, memories. You're going to have a limited space in your suitcase, so you might have to be selective, but definitely you've always got room for photos and letters from your friends or things that make you feel like you're at home if perhaps you're feeling a bit homesick. If there is any food from home that you might want to bring, I would bring plantain chips. I think plantain chips always go down well, but there are lots of different options. If you've got something from home that you would like to use to essentially befriend your flatmates, people are always really interested to try things that they've never tried before. So if you've got lovely delicacies from home that you're able to bring, so, don't bring any meat dishes or anything that you wouldn't be allowed in the country, but you can bring chips and that kind of thing, maybe some seasoning as well. Bring that along, and that's a good way of introducing yourself to people and getting to know people a bit better. In terms of clothing, typically it doesn't go too cold. I think probably the lowest we've had recently has been about -4 or -5, but I would say that's the exception. So you don't need to be bringing ski jackets and big thick things. The answer in the UK typically is actually layers. So bring layers. Bring a few smart outfits if you've got formal occasions. Sometimes we do have more formal events. And if you've got a particular sport, if you are a squash player, bring your squash racket, for example, unless you're happy to buy one in the UK, which you can also do. Make sure that you do bring, obviously, the electricals, laptop and chargers, and adapters as well. That's really important, and that's something that people forget quite often. Now, you can bring some of your own bedding, as I said, but remember, you do have a limited space. So you might want to buy a bedding pack from campus. And we've also got lots of places in Brighton where you can get bedding, you can get kitchen equipment as well. So don't worry too much about that kind of stuff. These are the kinds of things you can buy. And I would definitely try to prioritize things that you're really going to need, because you're going to have a limited space in your suitcase. And do remember, whichever airline you're going with, they will have a specific allowance. So make sure that you check the allowance. You don't want to be overweight. You don't want to be charged extra. So just be really careful about that and try to get your case on the scales before you go. Now, in hand luggage, essentially bring anything that you would need. Hand luggage is kind of useful because if you arrive with only your hand luggage, if you've got the right stuff in it, then you don't need to worry. If your case is delayed, if you do a transfer and your case disappears somewhere and then takes a few days to arrive with you, then you've got everything you need in your hand luggage. So absolutely essential: passport, visa, university documentation. I would normally bring it in a plastic wallet, so you've got it all there and you can have a look at it and you can show it to border force if you need to. If you've got anything with rechargeable batteries or electronics, that has to go into your hand luggage, not your hold luggage, for safety reasons. If there's anything medication-wise that you need, make sure that you bring that as well. And basically anything valuable. If you've got a nice watch that your granddad gave you, or you've got something that you want to bring, put that in your hand luggage, because hold luggage, things occasionally do go missing. I wouldn't say it's a common occurrence in the UK, but it does happen. So anything that you wouldn't want to leave unattended, don't leave it in your hold luggage, because essentially you are, in a way, leaving it unattended. So making sure that you've got cash, credit cards, all carried with you in your hand luggage. You might also want to bring a few little bits of toiletries and, underwear, for example, a spare t-shirt, just in case you do get into a situation where your suitcase hasn't arrived and you don't want to be thinking, I have nothing clean to wear for tomorrow. If you've got a little bit of emergency clothing in your hand luggage, that makes life a lot easier. So when you get to the UK, you've done all of your packing, you've brought all the right things in your hand luggage. What do you do next? So at passport control, you'll need to see all of your documentation out. So this is why it's important to have it somewhere really obvious, to have it in that plastic wallet. They might ask you some questions about your course. They might ask you some questions about your reason for your visit to the UK. So these are the kinds of things where, if you're working with one of our agent partners, which I do really recommend, speak to them about the kind of questions you can prepare for, because it can be a bit scary. There's an authority figure asking you questions. Maybe you're a bit jet lagged. Perhaps you've had a really long flight and you're tired. So just making sure that you're as prepared as you possibly can be, so that when they ask you questions, it's not a complete surprise to you. You know, okay, yeah, this is fine. I can talk about my course. I can talk about why I chose the university. I've got all my documentation. I know where it is. So anything you can do to make your future self and make their life a bit easier. Once you've got through passport control, you go to baggage claim and customs. Typically, I would assume that you wouldn't have anything to declare. Now, if declarations would be if you're bringing large amounts of money or particular controlled substances, you would normally need to go through the red channel. I don't think I've ever gone through the red channel. I'm not sure I've ever seen anyone go through the red channel. Most people would not be bringing that kind of stuff, and therefore you can go through the nothing to declare lane, and that will take you out into the arrivals hall. So when you go to the arrivals hall, it is not possible to go back. So just make sure that you don't leave your passport in the bathroom or leaving your luggage on the luggage carousel. All of these things that sound obvious, but again, if you've not had much sleep, sometimes it's easily done. So from then, there will be Sussex representatives over arrivals weekend. We'll be at Heathrow and Gatwick, and we'll be able to make sure that we can help you make plans for your onward journey. And I'll talk about that in a moment. And then in terms of traveling to campus, so the best thing to do to get to campus typically would be to London Gatwick. Gatwick is much closer to campus than Heathrow. However, if you are planning on arriving during welcome weekend, then you could take advantage of our free coach service. And that is going from Gatwick and Heathrow. So Heathrow arrivals would be able to potentially get a coach with us on welcome weekend. and I'll talk a little bit more in a second about how to do that, but essentially there are three options when you arrive in the UK. You could get a train, you could get a coach, or you could get a taxi or an Uber. So if you get the train, it's really easy from Gatwick. So from Gatwick, you just need to, it's about 30 minutes to Brighton. And then from Brighton, you take a 9-minute train ride to Falmer. So it takes about an hour to get from Gatwick to the campus with one change normally. If you go from Heathrow, it is a little bit longer because you have to get a train into London and then back out. So, and that involves going into London, taking the London Underground across London, and then going back out to Brighton from a different train station. So it's not necessarily the option I would recommend. But if where you're from only is able to access Heathrow, absolutely fine. Just make sure that you plan ahead. Make sure that you look at your routes, you figure out what you're doing, and maybe even kind of get some screenshots of things on Google Maps is what I normally use to try to figure out how to navigate between places. But just get some photos of the kinds of things you need to be looking out for to, again, make things easier for your future self. An easier option, if you're arriving on Welcome Weekend, is the coach service that we are operating. So that'll be from the 17th to the 20th of September. It's free of charge, and we will be sending out an email with full details and a booking link in late July. If you arrive on a different date, there is a National Express coach that goes from Gatwick and Heathrow to Brighton. Once you get to Brighton, you would then either need to take the train or a bus up to campus. And as I said, we're about 9 minutes away by train from the city of Brighton. Now, if you are booking a coach with us, or you're booking a National Express coach, for example, allow time after landing, because if there are any delays, you don't want to have paid for a coach, or in our case, booked on for a free coach that you then can't take. So I would make sure that you arrive at a certain time and assume that there will be slight flight delays, assume there might be queues at the border, which does happen, and pick a coach that allows for that. Even if that means going into a coffee shop with your luggage and just sitting there and having a coffee while you wait for your coach slots, that's a lot better than rushing across an airport that you don't know to try and find a coach and you're not sure where it is. So allowing a lot of time. It says there 2 hours. I personally would allow 3, but that's because I'm probably a little bit overcautious. But kind of the longer you allow, the more likely that you'll be able to make that time. And finally, if you're not worried about money so much, or if you happen to meet other people that are on the same flight as you, you could get a taxi or an Uber. So if you're going from Gatwick, it's about £80 or more. Heathrow can be about £125 or more. It is expensive, but if you find 1 or 2 people on the same flight, maybe you'll meet them in the WhatsApp groups, for example. If you're in our WhatsApp groups, that can be a really good way to connect with people and find people to share the transport with. So next, in terms of induction, registration, and welcome week. So you've made it to campus, congratulations. You might be a little bit jet lagged, but hopefully you're too busy being excited and you're really keen to explore and see what's out there. So the first week is not an academic week. Students will be moving in 18th of September at the earliest. We've got the arrivals weekend. And then the following week, so the 21st to the 25th, is welcome week. So there are no classes. There are academic welcomes and there are social events, and we are doing international specific events as well to welcome students, to help you get your bearings, to help you figure out how to do certain things. This is also when you would complete the second part of registration, and I'll talk about that in a moment. The actual classes start on the 28th of September. Now, we strongly discourage anyone from arriving late. If there is any way you can arrive on time, I really recommend it, because that's the best way to, you'll be meeting people in welcome week, you'll be making friends, you kind of get your bearings. You don't really want to be arriving late and then jumping straight into the academics without any time to settle in. However, we know that sometimes there are delays, sometimes things happen. You might find that there is a delay with your visa or there are some sponsorship issues. If that happens, then sometimes we can accept late arrivals, typically done on a case-by-case basis, so it will depend on your chosen course. The latest arrival date is usually about 2 weeks after classes start. Sometimes it can be a little bit later, but realistically, if you're coming for a master's, 2 weeks out of your master's course is already quite a big chunk of time. So doing whatever you can, this is where it goes back to trying to apply for your visa as early as you possibly can. In terms of registration, seeing your timetable, getting your email address, being able to access our systems, that happens as part of registration. So early September is when the first part of registration is. And then the second part is it happens in Welcome Week. And as part of registration, you'll get your Sussex email, your logins, library access. You'll be able to choose your modules, and you'll also need to pay your tuition and housing fees. And then registration will be completed in person during Welcome Week, so 22nd of September onwards. And the kind of things that you can expect in Welcome Week. So as I said, it's a mixture of some academic sessions, although it won't be classes. It's more giving you a bit of a background into things, giving you some kind of good grounding that will help you to really hit the ground running when classes start. So there are things like a course induction, registration, inductions for things like library, IT, careers, public speaking. And then there'll be a welcome marquee throughout the whole week. The student union will run a welcome hub. We have a specific welcome for international students. The students union often runs a free shop as well. So there are things where you can come along and find things low cost or free that will help you settle in. The school offices, so the schools are the academic bodies, the faculties, for example. They're typically open where you can ask questions. You'll be able to get campus tours. We've got academic sessions, career sessions, various talks, and also mindfulness as well. So this is one of the reasons why Welcome Week is such an important thing to be a part of. And there are so many social events. As I said, it's really important that you do well academically, but actually there are so many ways that you'll meet people. Some of the people that you will be, some of your best friends you haven't met yet. And that's a really exciting thing. And then that's one of the biggest joys of coming and being a student at university. You will meet people in all sorts of fun ways. And so going along to events, going along to Welcome Week socials, going along to whether they do a free pizza night or a roller disco or a quiz night, saying yes to things, going along to things is a really valuable way of meeting people and connecting with people. And I will say, I know that there's quite a lot of pressure on things like Welcome Week, Freshers Week at different universities. They call it different things. So try not to put too much pressure on yourself. If you know you are an introvert, if you know that actually you're someone that needs quiet time, that is perfectly valid. And I would say that quite a lot of the other students will probably also feel that way. So schedule in the things that you really want to go to, but also make sure that you schedule in that time to spend a bit of time in your room reading a book or FaceTiming your family and your dog, and whatever things are important to you, make sure that you schedule in time for those. You might get the kind of fear of missing out, but actually there are so many things happening throughout the year. Welcome Week is not the only week in the year. So it's a great chance to meet people, but there will be so many other opportunities to meet people. So be really kind to yourselves. Welcome Week, if any of you have ever started a new job or you've gone to a new school, you'll remember how tiring that is. I would say starting at university is pretty similar in terms of how tiring it is. So make sure that you still do the things that you know are important for your mental health and your well-being. So if you know that going to the gym is something that levels you out, or if you know that time in nature or reading is important to you, really make sure that you prioritize those things that you know will keep you level. That's really important as well. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So once you arrive, hopefully you've settled in, hopefully you've had some time that you need, you've met some nice people, you're going to want to think about opening a bank account. It's not a same-day process. So be organized, make sure that you have access to alternative payment methods for a few weeks, whether that's PayPal, whether that's pounds in cash, so GBP. Different banks will have their different processes. You might need to have an in-person appointment. You could do it by an app sometimes. But typically, you'll need your passport, you'll need your proof of right to be in the UK, so that will be your visa, and you'll need your proof of address, which would be your housing offer letter. And we can sometimes also provide a banking letter to support your account as well. So be prepared, be organised, make sure that if there are delays with your bank account, you've got enough money, you've got access to a travel money card, for example, something that will help tide you over while you're away. And then other things to think about, registering with doctors, that can be done online. Make sure that you do it before you become unwell. It can be a 24-hour process. What you do not want to be doing is going through difficult forms when you're really not feeling good. So get them out of the way. Again, a lot of this is about making your future self happy. Get those out of the way so that if you do ever need them, you know where to go, you've got that access. And then phone plans as well. I mean, there are huge numbers of options for phone plans. It'll depend what you need, what suits your budget. If you've already got an unlocked phone, you could do a SIM-only plan, which is quite a lot cheaper, but you might need a UK bank account to set up a contract. So I use Airalo as an eSIM. There are various other eSIM options that you can use, but that could be another option for you while you're settling in. And then other things that you want to be thinking about, make sure that you've got your email set up, your Wi-Fi set up. Have a look at your schedule. Make sure you try and put it in your diary, whether you're someone who uses an online diary or whether you just like writing things down. Make sure you know what you're meant to be doing and where you're meant to be going. Definitely make your room feel like home. Put up those photos, hang up those lights if you've bought some nice fairy lights, put on that nice duvet cover that reminds you of home. Make it feel like a place that you will want to spend time in, because you will be spending some time there, whether you're someone who studies in their room or whether you just want to be sleeping there. It's nice to have somewhere that feels like a safe space, that feels like home to go back to. Make sure that you do your food shop. We do have a supermarket on campus, but you might find that to buy things in bulk, it's easier to, you can go to Aldi on Lewis Road, for example. You could do a Sainsbury's order. You can get, you could perhaps work with some of the people that are in your flat and do a big group order, completely up to you. Definitely do a campus tour. There is so much to see on the campus. And as I mentioned, I discovered a coffee shop recently I didn't know. If I'd taken a campus tour, I probably would have seen that before, and I probably would have seen some of the beautiful spaces. So, and I don't know what I've been missing. So don't be like me. Make sure that you do your campus tour. Make sure that you have a little wander around, explore, meet people, chat to people. I definitely recommend things like, if you're comfortable doing so when you're in your flat, leave your door open. Put a little sign on your door that says knock if you want to have a cup of tea or cookies or whatever, and you know, you'll find that even if you feel like you're on your own, there'll be lots of people feeling the same. So try to be that person that is kind and that is brave and that is connecting with people, because those will create the foundations for some really, really solid friendships. Explore Brighton, and I'll talk about this in a second. It is a really, really fun place to be. There is a huge amount going on. There are so many different events going on. Explore, take the train, take the bus, see if you prefer the train or the bus. I prefer the train because it's faster, but the bus is cheaper. So like, it really depends on what you want to prioritize and what you care about. Apply for a student rail card, apply for a totem card, which gives you student discounts. And remember to have a good time. There are so many incredible experiences that even in 6 months' time, you will be experiencing, and you'll look back and go, wow, what a busy few months that was. And so remember that there are loads of things ahead, and that is scary, but it's also a really exciting opportunity to have a great time in a new place. So in terms of Brighton, Brighton, as I've mentioned, is a really, really fun city. There is a huge amount of stuff to do. It is a beachside city. It's the kind of place where when the weather is nice, people just flock to the beach. But you've also got, as you can see here, some really lovely little alleyways, little coffee shops. It's kind of known for being a bit quirky. It's known for having a lot of independent shops, independent places to buy things. And as I said, if you can see from my background, there is gorgeous countryside all around. I mean, in a moment, I'll share some of my recommendations and the recommendations of my colleagues. But there are loads of different things to look at and to experience in Brighton. In terms of adapting to life in the UK, there are definitely some changes. I mean, some of the things that you might have heard about Brits, we love a good queue, we love politeness. They're stereotypes, but generally they're also kind of true. So just be aware that queuing is definitely a thing. You can laugh at us if you want. It's just part of who we are. We can't really change it. And you might find that if you're making friends with other students, potentially if you get a buddy, you might find that you can say, hey, I noticed that my British flatmates are doing this. Is that normal? And they go, oh, yes, I found that weird too. There'll be lots of things that you find weird, because sometimes we can be weird, and that's okay. So do chat to people, do get to know about it, and you might find that you start loving some of the things. Maybe you'll go back home and you'll really love forming queues. Who knows? In terms of weather in the UK, we can go from hot to cold in the space of a couple of hours sometimes. It's really very odd. So actually bringing big, warm stuff is not always the answer. Layers is the answer. You might find that you leave the house with 5 different layers on, including a woolly hat and a scarf, and then there's hail, and then it's windy, and then the sun comes out, and you go, oh, I'm taking my layers off. It's actually a bit too hot now. But if you've got those layers on, you can kind of remove the layers that you need to remove to make sure that you're at the right temperature. So there are kind of a few bits like that that are helpful to know. And the other thing to know as well, so you can drink the water, the tap water in the UK. Typically, if that is not the case in a particular place, there'll be a sign on the tap. So the assumption is you can drink the water. And then the other thing is we don't have any dangerous animals in the UK or dangerous insects. You might get a bite from a spider, but we don't have anything that's particularly dangerous. It's not like other countries, some other countries where, you have to be really, really careful. So hopefully that makes it seem a little bit less scary. And you are going to a very, very fun place, a really nice place. Hopefully you can read this, but we've got some great examples of things to do in Brighton. So you can do there's an open top bus that will take you to Devil's Dyke, which is really cool. It's beautiful countryside, and there's a nice pub, so you can go for lunch, have a nice drink. A Sunday roast is a really good kind of typically British thing. I don't think they're that great, but we're very proud of them. So it depends. Look, if you're a vegetarian, you might want to try a nut roast. We've got, pork, lamb, whatever you want, really. Getting a Sunday roast is part of the typical experience. So try it, even if you then decide that you dislike it. Have a walk down the pier. The pier is a really fun place to be, and watch out for seagulls. I think every single person I know has got at least one story of a time that seagulls stole something from them. It's a bit of a rite of passage. You will probably have food taken from you by a seagull at some point, but you learn very quickly to kind of shelter your food as you're walking. It just becomes habit. Stanmer Park is really nearby, so definitely go and have a little walk or picnic. There are various other places you can go. So Seven Sisters, which is a bit further out, or you can go in the North Lanes, which are really fun, kind of little quirky shops. Go for a swim in the sea. It isn't going to be warm. If you go in October, November, maybe it'll be a bit warmer, but please do not expect warm waters. You will be very surprised. If you're someone that is really sensitive to the cold, you might want to and you want to do some swimming, you might want to get yourself a wetsuit. There are loads of events happening in Brighton as well. So Brighton Fringe, for example, we've got comedy, live music, theatre. I feel like there are always things happening in Brighton. It's very much a place where there are always different kinds of events and parties and festivals and things. And have a little explore. By train, you can get to some really beautiful little places like Lewes. You can have a little walk along the river, walk along the sea. So go and explore, find some people to go around with. And then when you meet people, you can get a group of friends and do a little day trip somewhere. And that can be a really nice way of getting to know people as well. So you'll be glad to hear that is it from me. There may be questions. I'm hoping that Christoph and Khalid have been answering them as we go. But is there anything that I have not yet answered that perhaps I should? I can see a question about campus jobs that I can answer. Yeah. So there are jobs on campus. I think last year we had about 1,000 different job opportunities available on the campus. Typically, it will be things like in the service industry. So you might be working in a coffee shop, you might be in one of the bars, you might be in the library. It'll all be advertised on the Careers Hub. So when you're able to access the Careers Hub, once you've registered, definitely have a look on there, see what's out there. The nice thing about Brighton as well, because it's a kind of quirky place that has so many coffee shops and restaurants and ice cream parlors and things, typically, and because a lot of the people who are in Brighton working would be students, and therefore the students might have left, normally at the beginning of term, they'll be looking out for new staff. So make sure that your resume is nice and shiny, and just go out and see places and go, hey, any chance you're looking for someone? They might not be, but if you hand out 100 resumes, you might find that a few people contact you. So it is definitely possible. I think a lot of the international students I know do some kind of job. The other opportunity that is also a campus job would be our International Student Ambassador Scheme, which we're running at the moment, where we have students who essentially will do events. They'll do events like this, or they'll be giving people tours of campus, that kind of thing. And that's a really good way of doing something as and when you want. So rather than having every Saturday morning, you have to do a certain thing, as an international student ambassador, you're able to pick the jobs that work for you. So if something goes wrong, they need a tour, and you think, well, I'm on campus that day, I can do that tour. You can do that. So thank you for that. It was a great question. Any other? Oh, yes, thank you. Yes, Christoph, there was also a whole session on this. So, and there's a link in the chat for that. So for the NHS, yep. If you've got ongoing conditions, absolutely fine. Just let them know when you're registering, and they can take on take on the support of that. This is what you pay for. So for as the immigration health surcharge, which is what you would pay for in addition to your visa application, you are essentially paying so that you can access the NHS in the same way that I would, for example. So yeah, if you need the resource, it is there. Any other questions? I can see many, but I don't know which have had written answers. So, Christoph, maybe if you can do question triage and then let me
Yeah,
know.
don't worry. For now, all the questions have been answered.
Perfect. Love that. Are you talking about for the job? So, some of the jobs you might be able to apply before you get to the UK. Some of them
Hmm.
you wouldn't be able to. So some of them you would need to have proof of your right to work. I mean, employers need proof that you have the right to work in the UK anyway. So you cannot apply for jobs before you go to the UK, as in you wouldn't be able to confirm your job because you wouldn't have your visa. Once you've got your proof of right to work, that's a little bit easier. But yeah, I mean, there was a whole session about careers and part-time jobs. So I definitely recommend watching that. And I imagine that quite a lot of those have given really good guidance on
Yeah,
jobs and things.
absolutely. So in the chat bar, I shared a YouTube link to the recording of our webinars, which was all about careers, employability, jobs on campus, part-time jobs, internships, and so on. And actually, in that webinar, we spoke briefly about a tool called Jumpstart. So we make this available to undergraduates who choose Sussex as their firm choice and postgraduates who pay their deposit. So if you've already gone firm for a bachelor's degree, or if you've already paid your deposit for a master's degree, then you will shortly be getting access to the Jumpstart platform. And on that platform, you can already start using some of the resources there. So you can start preparing your CV in the sort of British style that we require here, and you can start browsing job opportunities even before you arrive. Obviously, as Alice said, you won't be able to confirm your job until you're here, but the Jumpstart platform does help you get a head start so you can be sort of working on finding opportunities before you even land.
Thank you, Christoph. That's a really good shout. I saw a question about getting 100% on Cal Shield and then asking about accommodation. Yeah, apply for your accommodation. Um, go for it. You should have received a link already. Mistura, you said that you haven't received a link, or you were going to ask if you've received a link. If you haven't received a link and you think you should have done, then you can email our housing team, and hopefully Christoph or Halle can put the
I'll
details in
type
the
it in the
chat.
chat now.
Lovely, thank you. But yeah, let them know if there's a particular reason. If you think I should have received a link, yeah, it's worth asking, even if there's a reason why you haven't yet. It's definitely worth asking. Perfect.
So the
Thanks,
housing
Christoph.
team email address is there in the chat.
Excellent, thank you. Right, any more questions? I'm
Yes, there's a
assuming that you've
question in
been
the
gone.
Q&A.
Yeah.
How much fees do we need to pay for using the gym on campus?
Ooh, good question. Have either of you been Googling that? Can't remember off the top of my head.
Last time I saw it, I think it was around £20 a month. So it will be in
That's really good.
that vicinity. So say it's about half the price of my gym membership. So quite good.
Yeah.
I
I think there
also
are
think
different
if
tiers as well. I think there are I think, as far as I'm aware, there are three tiers. And so you can use it so that you can only do certain times of day, so off peak. And then there are some that allow you to go along to classes, and there are some that allow you to use the fitness room, for example. Christoph or Khalid, maybe you can
I'll pop it
just
in now.
pop a link in the chat. Perfect, thank you.
I know that also they do offers at different times of year, so you can sort of bulk buy the gym membership and you get it quite cheap if you buy it for the whole year when you arrive, for example. So
Nice,
um, there it is in the chat.
perfect, thank you.
Um, It sounds like we're sort of getting towards the end of the questions. We will be sharing the recording of the session as well as the slides in the next couple of days. And I am putting in the chat right now a guide that we've designed for international students. So it contains a lot of the information which we discussed today.
Perfect. Thank you, Christoph. But yeah, lovely to meet you all. Thank you so much for joining, and some really great questions there as well. And we're really, really looking forward to hopefully seeing some of you on campus soon. And remember, if you've got questions once you've looked at the guide, there should be contact information in there. There is no such thing as a stupid question. If you ask something, we've probably heard it all before, so please do ask if you're not sure. It's much better than being worried about it. We are here to help. We're really here to support you and make sure that you know everything that you need to know before coming to the UK. But Sussex is a really lovely, it's a very, very friendly place. It is a very kind place. And it's a really great it's a really great experience for our students. So we would really love to have you on campus. And yes, we'll be sending out a webinar recording, so don't worry.
I'm just putting the email address there. If tomorrow you realize you had a question and you forgot to ask it today, you can just send it to international-admin@sussex.ac.uk.
Thank you so much.
Rishika, yes, we will be sharing the recording. Don't worry, you'll get it in the next couple of days by email, the email address which you used to register for this webinar.
I think there are a few bits in the Q&A actually.
Yeah, so there's a question around swimming. Do you want to take that, Alice, or shall I?
I need to Google it first. I think there is £1.50 sessions for swimming, but I would need to double check.
So although we don't have a swimming pool on the Sussex campus, we have a partnership with the various pools around Brighton. I think there are 3 pools you can go to where you can get cheap student swims. So if you're a swimmer, plenty of options. And if you're very brave, you can sea swim as well for free.
Yeah. I can see a question about traveling with dependents. So for the majority of our students, you would not be able to bring dependents. Samuel, I'm assuming that you have a reason why you are able to. I don't know. It's the Development Studies MA. There are certain scholarships where you might be able to. But for anyone who is here who is able to bring dependents, and I think, Samuel, I've actually been liaising with you, so you can just drop me an email with particular questions. The general thing is accommodation is one of the key things that you would need to be thinking about. If you get in touch with me, you should have my email address, and maybe Christoph, you can pop that in the chat. Then I can give you a link to some more information about bringing dependents. But essentially, the first thing you need to think about is where you're going to stay, because our accommodation is for one person. We do not allow partners or children in our university accommodation. We have a very limited amount of family accommodation that is all fully booked and has been for a while. So you would need to be thinking about accommodation. You would also need to be thinking about schooling, potentially kindergarten, who's going to do childcare during the day, that kind of thing. So Samuel, if you've got particular questions, it looks like Khalid, do you wanna add to that? No?
No,
Oh, yeah.
no, it's all right. I've just marked it as answering live because you were doing that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
No, what you said is correct. Yeah, if there's certain government scholarships, there is a chance to sponsor dependents, but not if usually not on taught courses if you're self-funded.
Yeah. So I think that was it. Go on, Christoph.
Should we take this final question about costs?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Let me just, have you got it off the top of your head, or do I need to find it on the website?
I do not have it off the top of my head. I would get it from we have a
There we
living
go.
cost calculation. Have you got it?
I think so.
So basically, we've already done the thinking for you. There is a living cost calculation that we've done. There are ways in which you can kind of keep costs down. And so we've got some recommendations for that on our website. And I think Christoph is putting the link in the chat there.
I found it.
There are certain things that you won't be able to save a huge amount on, but there are ways. For example, if you make sure that you're not buying coffee on campus, you can get yourself a little travel mug and bring some instant granules, that kind of thing. Cooking in your flat rather than going out and buying meals. There are definitely ways in which you can make it more affordable. But we've done some calculations for the living costs there. So hopefully that link will be able to give you the guidance that you need.
Yeah. And just in the interest of time, there are two final questions. I'll take them both and then we'll call it a day. So,
Perfect.
Harris asks, is there a bird watching club on campus? Now, I don't know if there is specifically a bird watching club, but Sussex as a place is a great place for bird watching. So if there isn't already a club, you can start one when you arrive, Harris. Go to the student union and tell them you want to start a bird watching club. I'm sure you'll get some people who want to come bird watching with you. And then an anonymous person asked, any recommendations for private student accommodation? So we have plenty of advice about private student accommodation in the accommodation section of the Sussex website. So you can go and find it there. And if the answer isn't there, you can email the housing team. They can also help you with off-campus accommodation. They help everyone.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your engagement and your excellent questions. And I hope you all have a lovely, I suppose it's evening for everyone now, so have a lovely evening. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Khalid.
Thank you.